Call to order. May I please have a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Dr. Brophy? Here. Dr. Brophy is present.
Here.
Mrs. Castillo is present. Dr. Davis? Dr. Davis is not. She's present.
She's present, yeah.
Ms. Ellis? Here. Ms. Ellis is present. Mr. Garvey? Here. Mr. Garvey is present. Ms. Holloway? Here. Ms. Holloway is present. Mr. Mallory?
Here.
Mr. Mallory is present. Mr. Morris? Mr. Morris is present. Ms. Orange Jones?
Present.
Ms. Orange Jones is present. Mr. Rock? Mr. Rock is present. Ms. Dolce? Ms. Dolce is not present. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. May I please have
Madam
a motion?
Madam Chair, may I move that we take item 3.1 out of order and up first, please?
Sure, there's a motion to take 3.1 out of order. Can I have a second? Second by Ms. Holloway. May I please have 3.1?
Your first item is on page 10, item 3.1, consideration of the return of Capitol High School from the Recovery School District to East Baton Rouge Parish School District. The LE recommendation is to receive the summary report from the public hearing held September 29, 2022, and to approve the return of Capitol High School to the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, beginning with the 2023-2024 school year, with the recommendations outlined.
Great. Can I please have a motion? Board members, may I please have a motion? Mr. Mellorin, second by Dr. Davis. Thank you. Is there a report?
Just briefly, Ms. Orange Jones, we have had public meetings at the school at Capitol, which obviously is a historic school and certainly important to our capital city. We had a public hearing, I believe, last week here for additional public commentary opportunities. East Baton Rouge Parish School System, under leadership of Dr. Narcisse, has essentially agreed to the points, the terms that we have set forth with the return. And so I think today, Dr. Narcisse is here along with members of his team and board to make a presentation around more of the specifics around that particular return. So I will turn it over to him, unless Mr. Day, you have anything to add.
And thank you very much. And I've directed Dr. Narcisse to just share with us a very brief timeline per the board's recommendation and direction last time, and then open it up to questions from the board. Oh wait, push the thing. Yeah, maybe pull it closer.
Thank you so much. I just want to first thank our superintendent, Dr. Brumley, and the LDOU for their partnership in doing this work, and all the Betsy board members that have been involved in this work. We're super excited about getting Capitol back. On the floor with me, as you have our board president, President David Tapman of the board here. We also have Cleve Dunn, who is the head of the Capitol, president of the Capitol Association. And also we have counsel, Brent Shannon, our counsel, and Dennis Blunt, our zone counsel. Here as well, as you know, there's complexities to this, so I want to make sure we are all here to answer the questions that we have. I'm just going to highlight a few things and then go right to the questions that you have. If you can go to the next slide now. So we came in August and there was a committee forum on 8/17. We presented to the Betsy board. That went well. Then the next step for us was on our September board meeting to have our board vote to receive Capitol back. It was 9-0 unanimously. So we're excited about getting Capitol back. And then now we are in the final stages with the Betsy board, where there were 5 conditions as LDOE worked with us on for us to accept, which we do accept, in order to have the full return of the school and to begin the process right away. As President Tapman even have a vision board of a mock-up of what we believe we want the school to look like as we start to engage with the community. Just as we can start right away on once the board votes to give us Capitol back, we can go ahead right away and deliver on what the community has asked for, to return back to UBR and to get a facilities around the program. And also all the conditions which the Betsy board made a request for. So with that further ado, I thought it'd be better just as you said, just get any questions that you have and go right to it.
Wow, this is exciting. Congratulations on the progress today. I'll open it up at this time for board members who have questions for Dr. Narcisse or for the department or the rest of us. Any questions? Mr. Castillo?
Dr. Narcisse, congratulations on the progress you've made so far. You made a promise to me some time ago, and you know I was going to ask the question, so it's not a surprise. So lots of interest in who the funding source is for the project, and we said that was a condition of our approval. And so I know you're prepared to share that information. The mock-ups were wonderful. I'm excited for the students.
Thank you, Board Member Castillo. We have a funding structure that can receive a developing partner to be able to build the school. We've had one interesting partner, which everyone is aware of. However, we wanted to make sure that in our process of now having a pathway with a funding structure, that we think that this may provide more opportunities in others who may want to step up to be able to fund this structure. One of the partners have made it very clear that they want to do this, but we figure that it's always an open market approach for us, and our goal is to get the best structured deal to make sure that we can be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. But we do have, as many people know, it's been very speculative.
You might as well go ahead and say it, Mr.
Yeah.
Dr. Narcisse,
Well,
because we're going to pull it out on you.
That's okay, that's okay. We have a very interested party that wants to do that. The key goal for us is that we want to make sure that whatever funding structure that we have, or whatever developer that we use, allow us to have it on time, under budget, and more importantly, best serve the students. As you know, since I came on board, as you know, Board Member Castillo, when I went to the school, Mr. Morris went to, when I went to all the folks, we promised this community a long time that we were going to deliver them on the building and the program. So as I promised the community, we're going to do exactly what we said we're going to do. So we have an interest, but as I think we should, we want to make sure that there's possibility for others that may say it was a better deal. I think the board will have an opportunity, our board will have the opportunity to figure out if there's even a better deal. We're okay with that too.
Mr. Morris?
Appreciate that, Superintendent Narcisse. Can you help us a little bit with the timeline there, particularly with the transition, how it impacts students and so forth?
Yeah, so as we shared in one of our meetings, our goal is that it would take a full year, as you see on the timeline, for us to fully transition with the CEF group, and also to make sure that the teachers that are there and all the groups that are there are able to incorporate into our system, meeting our qualifications based on state standards and certification of those things. And so our goal is to have a transition that will happen from now till the end of the year, and then we can fully transition to schools. What's important for us is to be able to get in and to see what the budget is, how the staffing is, what's the structure of the school system. And so our goal has been, if you vote today, which is what I'm hopeful that happens, in November, we will then go through implementation transition plan with all of the various parties that are there. Then we will go ahead and meet with the teachers, faculty, staff, school leaders. In January, we'll begin rollover with current students in the program, begin a process with staffing. The goal is to have them stay there for a whole year. And then after that, we get to have some professional development review programs and do a joint approach to have a smooth transition. Our goal is not to upend the school. Our goal is to make sure that it's a very smooth transition. One of the things, as you know, when we went to business school that bothers me a lot is the location of the school in terms of the building needs to be fixed, and there's so many things that is very challenging here. So we
So trying to get into that part of it, the building construction timeline, those logistics, the students are going to be impacted with that as well, right?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is, the goal is as soon as we choose, go through our process, the board will vote on our funding structure to develop those things in a matter of having a timeline where our hope is within about let's say about a year to 14, 15 months, we can be able to have kids fully transition into a new school. It all depends important for us is to get the timeline as soon as possible. Once you vote, we can go ahead and start.
So you think our students in a new building in 15 months then?
That is our goal. And if that is unable, then our goal is to figure out whether we can put them in different spaces until we build out the current structure.
Okay, just one other question. I echo Mr. Gaskell's comments, just congratulations to you guys for getting this far and the y'all look beautiful. With regard to students who, as I understand it, the model is open enrollment initially, but then students, for whatever reason, who don't make the GPA for the specific pathway that they've chosen, where would what would the alternative pathway be for those students?
Yeah, one thing we took to heart was when Betsy told us, we want to keep the students that are there. So our goal is to keep them there. The question we talked about more is, and we get our folks is, maybe what are different type of options they can have, but to graduate from school. So our goal is to keep students there. That's your question.
So there will be options at the school for those students if they aren't able to progress on the first choice pathway, basically.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Dr. Davis?
So first of all, I am thrilled to see Capitol High return to the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. And I just want to make sure it's, I think I asked this question in the last Betsy meeting, and I'd like to know if the answer is still the same. The plan is for the district to run the school directly itself or to hire a charter operator? I think at the meeting last time I was told it would be direct run. I feel like this pause means the answer might have changed.
No, we will make sure we provide a correct answer for you.
Okay.
So the EBR will operate the school. How the structure is based on how we do the funding structure will determine how we go from there. So it is under our operation as a school district, and so how we go about that is where we are looking at the funding structure. And
the reason for the hesitation is funding is a challenge and the timeline is a challenge. And in order to be as, in order to develop a funding model, it might, funding construction potentially either with a bond issue or work within the existing EBR tax plan, if that is a possibility, or there is a possibility of a type 1 charter, but it would be a district controlled charter, i.e. EBR would establish, similar to the structure that Bessie provided for its transition, standing up a nonprofit that is a charter entity, but with EBR having complete control and direction of the educational program of the school, but the charter model would provide something, I think, which is a little bit novel, and that is a greater opportunity for community stakeholder engagement. So, there are 3 funding structures and pathways forward, and according to which one is selected, I think under any answer to your question, EBR operates the school. But notions of what the law provides with the charter structure is, provide some nebulous notion of the answer to your question. So the superintendent didn't want to equivocate. We wanted to be clear, and I think I tried to provide that clarity.
Okay, and I would like to say that I am going to hold the school board to their word regarding the access of neighborhood schools around Capitol High, or neighborhood children and their access to this school, because when I hear the word, the goal is to have them there, like, I want to make sure that the district honors its word and that those students have a place at their neighborhood high school. And so I don't want to have to come to a bunch of East Baton Rouge Parish School Board meetings, so please don't make me do it. Thank you.
There's a motion on the table and a second. Are there any objections to this motion? Having done, the motion passes. Congratulations. right. That one. Oh, shoot, there's two parts, sorry. My bad.
You ready to run?
Sorry. Oh,
While those two cards are coming up.
please, yeah, Miss Linda, let me just say, Linda Johnson, who I just saw, okay, perfect, great, and Ms. Bowen, come back, okay, great, yeah.
And while they're coming up, Mr. Superintendent, I thought I heard you say this, that the facilities plan that you put together has to be approved by your school board before you proceed with it. That's correct?
Yeah, the funding structure,
That's
we
what-
have three pathways.
We
We have three pathways for funding, so whatever, one of the funding structures.
And it has to be approved by the board.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not here opposed or in favor of it. What I'm here is trying to get some information for my own personal use. I'm looking at Discovery. I'm looking at the school in St. Landry. And I'm also looking at Capital in terms of their performance because they're all schools that had local groups running them. Why am I interested in this? Is because what comes to me all the time are, how can we do this, Linda? What you doing in Baton Rouge? Well, I got a CMO, but how can you do it if you don't have that? And Capital has been able to do it, Discovery has been able to do it, and the school in St. Lance. So I want to see the performance data before any decisions are made on those three. So to me, my question is, can you delay this till December? Because I want to see the clean up performance data that's coming out of this department on those schools that are being operated independent of CMOs with local people. So then I can tell people these are the steps you need to take if you want to operate a school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, see, I honored your request, Mr. Castillo. My name is Karonda Corley, parent, disabilities advocate, and I am a proud alumni of East Baton Rouge Parish Public School System. It is with great urgency that I ask that you return Capital High School back to our school system because the students there and the community, we want it back. We've been wanting it back. We wanted it back when KIP tried to come in and take it. We didn't want them. We wanted the school system to take our school back. It is with great urgency and importance that you listen to what the students actually said when LDOE and Bessie came and heard them. They actually said they wanted their school to return back to East Baton Rouge Parish Public School System, and they wanted their programming and stuff to remain same. They only wanted the buildings to be brought up to code, and they wanted some more additional programming, but they wanted it to actually be a sustainable community school model. Our superintendent just brought back sustainable community school models with Capital Elementary and Capital Middle. Bringing Capital High will be the final piece. We need Capital High. Our staff need Capital High. Our students want Capital High. Everybody, we flooded this building with people wanting Capital High to return. So when I hear one person versus thousands that said that they wanted Capital High to be returned, for once, listen to the people. The people actually made that, but we also talk about children. And the children said we wanted to be back in our Capital High. We wanted opportunities to actually be able to do an internship at Louisiana Workforce Commission, which is something that they used to do. They want those opportunities back. Because as we talked about it earlier during the accountability framework, one of the things they talked about was children that do not want to matriculate into a college programming or into CTE. Well, guess what? Capital High allowed those children to actually go directly to Louisiana Workforce Commission, and they actually were afforded the opportunity to actually have a job there after graduation. So please, 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 bring it back. Bring it back today. Give it back today. We don't have to listen to that particular comment. If y'all want to do it, they can bring that to EBR school board meeting, and we will gladly listen to it there. Our board members, like Board President Tammy, he hear me bring the same sense of urgency that I do to the Bessie. And I just thank you
for bringing it back to our children and letting their voices be heard. And thank you, Dr. Brumley, because you attended that meeting.
Okay, thank you. So look, procedurally, board members, I know we already took the vote, but just because we've just heard public comment, I want it on the record again. There's a motion on the table and a second. Are there any objections to the motion? Having none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Ms. Fields, go catch your flag.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, board.
All right, so now, we're going to go to the next item.
Your next item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of a report on types 2, 4, and 5 charter contracts and requests for amendments. The LD recommendation is to approve the material amendment requested by Louisiana Key Academy contingent upon the school being approved for adding an additional location to accommodate the additional grades and an increased enrollment.
Great, may I please have a motion? Motion by Ms. Holly, can I have a second? By Mr. Garvey, thanks. Any discussion? Any board questions or discussion on this item? Any objections? Okay, having none, the motion passes. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 23, item 4.1, consideration of revisions to bulletins regarding learning pods. The LD recommendation is to receive the report.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Garvey, second by Ms. Holloway. There aren't any board, department, but there is a question from Dr. Davis.
So when we made this motion to defer at the last meeting, it was to reconsider the learning pod policy, but there's no policy. There's just a note that says at the direction of the board, but at the last thing that I recall is the board deferring this item for reconsideration at this meeting.
Okay, hold on.
I think there is a policy available, but it's not at this point ready to be acted upon. We still need additional time for discussions around this, and at this particular time, it's not ready. I can give you a draft if you do not have it of where it stands at present, but it's not ready at this point in time to act upon.
Can you tell, and the note explaining this, it says the LD is continuing to engage stakeholders. Can you tell me who the stakeholders we're engaging with in the pod policy?
Well, that's what we have to do beyond this point. We've tried to use a team at our agency to look at this and to build some initial draft. But what we need to do at this point is take it out to a broader audience to get additional feedback on it. So at this point, it's just not ready to be approved.
So is the broader audience going to include the Louisiana School Board Association and superintendents?
Sure.
I really would like to point out that pods have been in existence since June of last summer, that we still have no policy written surrounding learning pods. We do not know where they are. We do not know how many students they have in them. We do not know whether or not they have met the minimum safety requirements that we require charter schools to submit to us when we agree to their contracts. And I feel a great sense of urgency surrounding this issue, because God forbid something tragic were to happen at one of these learning pods, and we have to have an article in the Advocate that says that the Department of Education and Bessie, who is in charge of monitoring these schools and their compliance with the law, that we did not even know that there was a school there. And that this board has failed to act on the policies that have been brought forth by the department. I am very concerned about the lack of urgency surrounding this issue.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I think the question is, are you putting forward a proposal to move that forward? Like, what do you actually think this board should be doing in response to your very well-stated concerns and urgency that we should all share?
I think that we should actually debate a policy rather than deferring this item as we have every time the department has brought forth policy. We have refused to even entertain a discussion around what we think ought to be included in that policy, which I would imagine most of us would agree is at least the idea of informing Bessie where these are located, right? And that the schools at a minimum have met the safety requirements that are spelled out, and then also that they are obeying the law. Are they providing transportation as if required by a type 2 charter? Are they providing by the legislation that says that music and art, if offered at their host school, are also being offered at the pods? We do not know the answer to any of those questions because we don't know how many exist, who is operating them, or where they are.
My recommendation to you is put forward a motion that directs the department to do that and see if there's a second, if you want to have that conversation come up.
Just one point before we follow it, it's okay to follow it. So we brought a policy previously, it was, no action was taken on the policy because there was going to be potential legislation around this. And then the potential legislation did not materialize into law. And so at this point, we're trying to get together a policy that we feel like will puts us in the best position to have approval by the majority members of this board. And I don't think we are there right now, but I think that we will continue to work on that, and our goal is to bring that back to the board for approval in December. That is what we intend to do.
Sorry, I need clarity here. My understanding of learning pods may be different than in someone else. To me, a learning pod is not a school, so I need clarity on that. And I know how our districts, I know what I'm going to ask, and this is pertaining to district policy and charter, or are you just referring to charters? That'd be a second question, Dr. Roman.
I think we're more interested here in the charge that this particular board has oversight, or this particular board has oversight.
Okay. As an educator, I just know that as a supervisor, principal, or district leader, that we are very in tune with policy, safety, where our kids are, et cetera. So I just want you to know that I understand that policy needs to be developed, but I don't want to have all these restraints on these particular pods that have 10 kids. Am I right? These pods have 10 kids? Or is that the max?
Well, the local educational agencies, LEAs, they can already have pods. And children
I'm accustomed to.
and students, so long as they're taking into account the safety of their children, they can continue to have pods. Those children are under the oversight of those particular LEAs. What we have been focused on is a policy for this particular board that would address the type 2 schools in the state for which we have oversight over. We were not as concerned about providing policy for the LEAs that already have the ability to have pods as much as policy for the type 2s where we have oversight here.
So
Now, there's
do I understand it's not a school, it is a learning pod of what's the max of kids can have?
Yeah, it's,
You can have, it's a group
but
of kids that
it's
you're
an
teaching.
extension of the school.
It's an
not
extension, yeah.
Are you saying that the department plans on bringing forward policy in December
Yes.
on this item? Does that satisfy your concern, Dr. Davis?
It doesn't, the policy actually is in the packet for us to consider in December because I asked for it to be here in October. And so, and while I get that a pod is an extension of the school, and we have oversight of type 2 charters, and in their charter compact, one of the things that is spelled out is where they are located, and there is a checklist that those locations are required to do regarding safety. And we don't know that that same process is being followed for learning pods because we don't know where they are or who has them, which to me, when we have oversight over type 2 charters, that is concerning. I'm not trying to get rid of pods, but I think that we have to come up with a policy surrounding knowledge about the basics of where they are located and whether or not those pods are complying with the law. And we can't even ensure that they're complying with the law surrounding who their employees are, because they're supposed to be employees of the type 2 charter. We don't know if they're providing type transportation. We don't know if they're providing meals. If they're providing meals at their home school, they have to provide those. And also all of the ancillaries that are related. And we don't know the answer because we don't even know who has them or where they are.
And part of the delay too is, I know Dr. Davis has rightfully so mentioned safety a few times. Part of the delay is getting an accurate safety checklist developed. And so that's also what we're trying to do at this particular moment. So we're happy to engage with you beyond today on that as well. We're also happy to engage with the groups that you mentioned, but the goal for the policy was the schools that we as a department and you as a board have oversight. So it's not necessarily for the LEAs. But I'm happy to engage with them.
Of the list of questions that Dr. Davis just raised, which ones of those do you believe you'll have information on?
I think all of them. We'll have the policy.
You'll have the policy plus the analysis of.
Plus the safety checklist and, yeah.
Okay. Does that satisfy it? Okay. Any other questions on this item? Any objections? Having none, the motion passes. Next item, please.
That concludes the agenda.
All right. Thank you.